And now, the Android Basics segment. This is a segment where we discuss the things that power your device from behind the scenes. And now, here's this week's episode, Android Basics.
Well, we'll move on to our Android Basics this week, and it's quite a big one because we have had the release of TalkBack 16. And there are some really quite good features in this. We'll be demonstrating one earlier, but it is a consequential release. So if you don't have it yet, keep an eye out and it will drop to your phone. Warren, do you want to kick us off?
Glad to. And TalkBack has been evolving, and frankly, I can't say enough good words about TalkBack. I know some people don't care about TalkBack, and I understand that, but there are a few issues that probably we're looking forward to seeing in TalkBack, especially when it comes to all that discriminate copying or selection on a non-edit field. I mean, that probably is one of the most important things that we haven't seen in TalkBack in quite a while, and I'm not saying it's here now, but apart from that, I think that we're on a good footing when it comes to what is going on with TalkBack here, because we've got a lot of Gemini integration into TalkBack and making things easier, especially, if you're one of those that like your images. And, I used to be one of those that didn't care about images and all of that. And I'd always said, hey, what do I need to know about images? But now using that, though, I realize where those guys that like images or image descriptions are coming from, because it also gives you that information that otherwise you wouldn't have known, maybe the kind of clothing the person is wearing, or what the object looks like, and all of that, the color, things like that, and other things surrounding it. And then going farther, including that follow-up questioning whereby one could either type or ask a verbal question. I think those are very important, and now I can see why people like the image description. So for me, I think that TalkBack has come a long way, and integrating all of these capabilities into TalkBack makes it something that is very good for anyone to use.
So I think the ask follow-up questions to the image is a really big thing about this update. So obviously you had in TalkBack 15 the ability to perform the image description, use online AI, but you couldn't do a follow-up. So that is huge. Also now, instead of just doing an image description, you can describe the screen and ask follow-up questions, which is really good. And another perhaps overlooked thing they've introduced is the ability to navigate tables. And this is really quite clever. So you can set the granularity or the reading controls, whatever you want to call it, to tables. And then when you swipe left or right, up or down, you are moving into the table. So swipe down, you're going by row, swipe left or right, you're moving by column. And to get out of that, you do your little up and down or three-finger swipe left or right to change the reading control. So that's another good thing.
In addition to that area, which is a very important one also, is Braille users, for example. There are some improvements in that department as well, where you could see or use that, see the notification history and all of that using your Braille device and all of that. So I will say overall, this release is not a slouch by any stretch of imagination. It's a good thing that we have, and so many other improvements on there. And another thing that I've been asking about that for a while we never had was that ability to assign a gesture to spell the last spoken phrase. For example, prior to this, you had to go into the TalkBack menu and tap on spell last spoken utterance or whatever. And I found that very annoying, and I was complaining about that, and we finally have that. So I think for me, this is a good thing. Another thing that we got to fix for is, I know that Karen and Sally and you guys like those emojis and all that good stuff. So, for example, someone would put smiley face, smiley face, smiley face, several times. I find that very annoying. And now we have a fix to where if you have four or more of such reoccurrences of that, it will tell you the number of those things. So I think that's a
Yeah,
good
it
welcome
even
thing.
works with punctuation. So if you have like 4 or 5 colons, it'll say 4 colons instead of colon 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 forever.
What I'd like them to do, I think, is to treat emojis as punctuation. So if you set it to some, like most emojis are suppressed. I think that would be quite good. But people like emojis, so I doubt they'll do that.
They
I
can make
think,
it differently by having a custom setting to turn off emojis or to keep them. So they will be separate, but toggleable.
Yeah, they could do that.
yeah, I was going to say you'd have to ask Karen and Sally to see how that ought to be because, I mean, they're my emoji guys. You know.
I don't mind emojis, but I'd like, sometimes you need to turn them off because people get silly.
You know what's the problem? The problem is in people who are using, especially those Joshua users who are using the voice typing, AI voice typing extensions that are becoming very popular, and they are using emojis. And the problem is that these AI services just put emojis everywhere. So after each word or after several words, you will get an emoji, which is becoming so much annoying. So I hope that people will stop using this because it's really making reading messages tedious, and it's making things really annoying. So I don't know why are they doing this, but it's really annoying.
It is really annoying. But it's a great release. So the fact you can ask follow-up questions, you can ask by voice. There's a there's a text and a voice button. You can describe the screen, which is amazing. So you don't just have to describe an image or a control. You can do that. I assume you can assign a gesture to describe screen. I haven't done it, but I'd be surprised if
you can assign a gesture as well. What you can do, I use this a lot with the describe on screen. Is what I do is with the CGM. You know how you have the graphs that are not accessible. With TalkBack. So what you do describe by screen, and Gemini on real time will take the graph, describe the entire graph, bullet points if the graph is trending upwards or downwards, and then you can ask it questions as well.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, a CGM is continuous glucose monitoring. Gary and I are both diabetic, so you can look at the graph that's in your diabetes app and have TalkBack describe that by the sounds of it, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And TalkBack 16 is rolling out gradually, and obviously you can take the risk and install it from an APK. And Kareem, John posted that on Telegram this week with potentially dire consequences, didn't he?
I will not be the one that you are willing me to be. I will be in John's defense, so don't try to say anything about John.
It's a wind-up.
It worked pretty well, and I'm using it now, actually, and it's really great. It's better than updating from the Play Store. No, not to this extent. Actually, I advise people not to update using an APK just because if there's any problem, just it's better to wait for the update to hit your device. But the update, at least for me, it's working. But tell them about what they should do, because actually I forgot this completely until you just talked about it.
I will, but first of all, tell them who saved you.
Saved me? Actually, what saved me is that I'm using a Samsung device and I'm using Joshua. So I just went back to Joshua and I uninstalled TalkBack and continued my life until you came with the idea or with the workaround, or actually it's what should be done, and I was able to install it again. So I hadn't have any issue.
So what happened was, John pasted the APK and it didn't work on either mine or Kareem's phones. And I remembered, I don't quite know why I remembered, but there was an article on Accessible Android about an installer that would let you install Gishuo and bypass all those annoying turn on, the restrictions that Google pays on accessibility apps. I'm like, interesting. I wonder if I install it using this package installer, will that install TalkBack and bypass all those restrictions that stopped TalkBack working? And it did. And I told Kareem, so she didn't want to say that I saved her on the TalkBack thing, but I did. But the package installer idea was posted on Accessible Android for use with Gishuo, and I'll put a link to it in the show notes, because probably if you are going to install it as an APK, this installer seems to be the way to get it to work immediately.
I want to clarify just one thing, which is this thing is happening because of the restricted settings thing that you know about. Actually, it's since Android 13, but on Android 13 there wasn't that strict thing, so you could just update and it will work. On Android 14, this is not the case. So whenever you want to update something from outside of the Play Store, if it's an accessibility service, you have to re-enable restricted settings, and except if you just update using a third-party installer. The one that you had talked about is actually I don't use it, but it's the one that is recommended or is suggested actually in the article. The good thing about it is that you can use it to open the APKs directly, so you don't need to go to the app and select the APK, but there are other alternatives. So the thing is that until now, using third-party installers bypasses this restriction. So if you ever use another third-party installer like Skit, it will work, but Skit doesn't have any option to use it to be the default one that you open the APKs with. So yeah, the point is just if you have any third-party installer, it should work, whether it's Skit, up to down, the one that you talked about, or like any other installer. I think APK Mirror, so the APK Mirror installer also should work.
I'm not sure they all do work though. That was sort of the point of the article, wasn't it? Like the guy had tried quite a few. Maybe you're right. Maybe they do work, but that was why he wrote the article, because some of them wouldn't work.
No, actually, what happened is that the guy found this workaround. He also wanted to share it with people because people were just trying to update, and the Gishuo was stopping. So they had to re-enable it each time, to re-enable the restricted settings. So he talked about it as an example. So he based the explanation on this example, but this is not the only one that works. Actually, others work, and I actually use Skit.
Oh well, that's good. I'm glad there are more options, but yeah, we might not then link to it in the show notes because some of the third-party externals will work, but it's good you have options. But yeah, do consider that when you are installing an off-piste app, if you like, not from the Play Store.
And as Karen said, that Skit is a great app, and we demoed that Skit maybe a couple of years ago on our site, and it's one of those great apps you could use in installing things of this nature if you find yourself in a bind. So, and that APK Mirror Karen mentioned is another good one to use. So yeah, we've got a lot of options out there. And I'm glad we're talking about this because there are people out there that are impatient and wouldn't wait. And so we'll need to sideload. So use one of these to get you through all the barriers.
Regarding TalkBack, what's new stuff? Actually, one thing is related to the table navigation that you already talked about before, it's possible also to use a gesture that takes you to the next or previous. So you can assign a gesture to the next row or to the previous row, also to the next or previous column. So it will take you directly to the next or to the previous column or row. Also, it's possible to add columns and rows to the reading controls. So instead of using this new table navigation thing, which alters the usage of the swipes, right and left swipes, you could just use rows and columns as reading controls. So you move to rows, and then you swipe down like you do usually with reading controls to end up to move between the rows, and the same with columns. So this is one thing regarding table navigation, which is actually good, and it's making things customizable, which is really nice. And another thing is related to grouping of symbols, repeating symbols or repeated symbols, which you already also mentioned. But one thing I want to add, which is not good actually, is that this grouping option is not working except with Google TTS, which is not good at all for us who are not using Google TTS. Even if you try to use it with OTTS, it won't work. I mean, if you use Google TTS with OTTS, this won't work. So what you are left with now is the option is disabled for us who are not using the Google TTS. So before, because it wasn't customizable, we could just hear the number of repeated symbols and then the symbol. Now, because it's toggleable, we can't do anything. So we actually, if we have, like, for example, 4 commas, we will hear comma, 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 comma. So this is becoming annoying because we are unable really to use repeated symbol grouping. So I hope that Google will do something about this and stop making things just Google TTS exclusive, because this is the third thing that's just working only with Google TTS. The first thing is the suggestion or the spelling of the suggestions when you are moving between the suggestions of misspelled words. You can't hear the spelling except if you are using Google TTS. The second thing is the punctuation customization, some and all, none. No, there's no none. Some, most, and all. This usually doesn't have any effect on other TTS engines. So now it's the third one, which is the inability to toggle the grouping of repeated symbols on or off. So yeah, it's not good.
Now, Karen, don't you like that song about comma, 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 whatever? I don't want to talk about that song, but it's from the UK.
Culture Club.
But yeah, actually, I see where you're coming from, because I didn't realize that, because I was using Google TTS. And so it does make sense if this is something that could be controlled directly from TalkBack itself, instead of making it parser it through the TTS engine, which needs to be that Google TTS. So yeah, it does make sense to kind of look into that again. I'm glad you brought this up.
And one thing I forgot about, we all actually forgot about, is the addition of something related to hardware keyboards. So it's now possible to use the search key as a modifier key. I don't use external keyboards. I don't care, but actually this is good for some people. This should be good for some people. So this is one thing. You can customize this from you can set this from the Google keyboard shortcut settings. I think this section is in advanced settings, so you can set the modifier key from there. And the other addition is the 2 shortcuts that are to go to the previous or to the next visited link. I honestly don't remember what are the shortcuts, but there are 2 shortcuts to move between, or to move to the next or previous visited link. I mean, keyboard shortcuts.
Talking about keyboard support, I think I want to give a little shout out to Dennis Long. Dennis always wanted better keyboard support. So I think in our podcast now, maybe we'll start a little segment of a shout out to a member. And so for the first time, a shout out to Dennis about keyboard support. There you go, Dennis. You have your keyboard support here. Maybe go in there and see if you customize that and modify that keyboard.
I don't think they'll have done what everyone wants in keyboard support, which is I don't use a keyboard either, so I'm like Karina, I don't really care. But what I think they need is the thing that everyone else has. So you don't need a modifier key. You need, Jules would call it virtual cursor. NVDA would call it focus or whatever. Quick nav is what iOS calls it. So if you are in a web environment, people want to press letters. They don't want modifiers or search keys. So whether they will ever do that, I'm not sure, but I suspect that is what folks want.
Yeah, but as it is, you can already use those, later navigations on the web page with the keyboard. But
You
I
can't
think
though, because
yeah,
you have to hold two keys, not one key. Like people want to press letters, like you have to hold a modifier or a search. You can't do it.
yeah, okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, so yeah,
Yeah,
that
you
makes
can't.
sense. If we
It's
could
the only
just,
operating system you can't do it.
yeah,
Like
so
literally the only one. They need to
yeah,
fix it.
so I think though what they're doing here is if you don't like using the Alt key, you could use something else, and that's where the search key comes in. I think that if people have the customization that they want, I think that's a better thing to do. But like you said, if we could just use those later navigation without any key combination, I think that would be a winner.
On the web, that's what they have to do. They have to do that. I don't know why they haven't.